I voice Ming, who is Mei's mother, and when we meet her at the top of Turning Red, she is just, I would say, her own happy-go-lucky mom self.
In Turning Red, I voice Mei Lee. She's a Chinese-Canadian 13-year-old girl who's just navigating through life and experiencing all these changes. And she's confused, she doesn't like it, she doesn't know what to do. And that's what Turning Red's about. I personally relate to Mei tremendously because I was around that age when I recorded for her. So there were definitely moments in that movie I could relate to that I experienced maybe like a day or a week before actually recording the scene. So, but having this movie right next to me, almost guiding me through puberty and changes and messiness, I'm just really grateful for that.
Oh, sure. I relate to Ming as in representing all the loving mothers out there who are doing their best. And just, it's hard being a parent. It's hard being a parent. And the luckiest ones of us who actually have good relationships and loving relationships with our children still have to go through that difficult time where separation has to happen. So you have to deal with your own material of as you see Ming and, not really revealing to Mei their legacy of pandaness, that she has to deal with her own material before she lets her daughter go and be her own person. Ming's relationship with Mei is everything in her life. And I would say you see that generationally when the grandmother comes. And I would say that points to a little bit about the pressure. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that it's a good or bad thing, but it's a notable thing because when a parent's entire focus is the child, sometimes, I think a lot of times, it puts too much pressure on the child. And I'm really happy that the film examines that because Ming herself has to take a look of what pressure that she has put her own daughter under. But you see their loving relationship and how they're going to eventually navigate through that. At the very, very end, she's proud of Mei, and she's also understanding that Mei is her own person, and maybe what she was not able to do in her life, her daughter will be able to do.
Mei turns into a red panda because of a family legacy that her mom conveniently left out and didn't warn her before. I think that really shows that Ming didn't. It's like Ming's not ready to let her daughter
Go through puberty.
Go through puberty. Yeah, it felt too soon to her because Mei's her little daughter, her little girl, and she loves her very much. And well, when Mei turns into a red panda, she's obviously stressed. She feels like a freak. She doesn't know what's going on, and she hates herself. I think she feels like a freak because she doesn't know anyone has gone through it. If she knew before that, it's not her fault. It's not any.
It's not abnormal.
It's not weird.
That these are actually, and you bring up a good point because I think that's a great thing about our film. It can start a conversation with young people because I already know people who brought their children who are, let's say, maybe around the age of 10. And then the conversation of this is going to happen. You're going to have a lot of feelings that you might not be able to control. You know what I mean? And the panda is a beautiful metaphor for that change and for that messiness. And just to create a little bit of language about emotions. I think that's a really hard thing to talk about, but I feel like Turning Red gives a little bit of language around that.
Oh, and how it affects, the red panda.
Oh, yeah, your day-to-day. Yeah.
The way the red panda affects Mei's day-to-day life, it's just she's all of a sudden it kind of sucked out her entire soul when she starts to stay calm, especially when she goes to school and it's
Hello, friends.
Hello, yeah. And the fact that she has to go to those lengths to keep the panda in just shows how important emotions are and how important the panda was. Panda is May's friend, her squad, if I may, is so important to her because those are the people who she depends on and who she can always rely on and who will never judge her and think I mean, the first thing her friends do when they see her bred panda is just love her.
Yes.
And think, wow, you're so cool. They never
Yes.
judged her negatively or anything. And they probably know that Mei would think that, because Miriam, she always knows what to say. And the fact that when Mei is breaking down, crying because she feels like a freak, she hates herself that much, her friends know that she shouldn't feel that. She shouldn't feel that way about herself. So Miriam, the second she starts crying, starts singing, and they start singing about Fort Town, and just seeing everyone come together and have that mutual love and friendship come through is really special.
Turning Red is set in 2002 in Toronto. And I used to live in Toronto. Not during that time, actually a bit earlier in the 90s. And I gotta tell you, it was a thrill for me. Also, it's the first Pixar film set in Canada. And I'm very, very proud of that. When I saw some of the film the very first time, when Mei Lee is walking down the street in Chinatown, it was just so exciting. I'm like, I know exactly what corner that is. And I was correct. Domee was like, she said it in like downtown Chinatown in Toronto. So it was great to be able to see that. And just during that early aught time, you know, it was the height of great boy bands. Myself, I didn't really get into the boy bands, but I know in this perfect pocket for millennials, and also with the great music from Fort Town, Billie Eilish and Phineas, they were able to capture that early aughts moment. These stories are important to tell because they exist, because we have to support artists who have not necessarily had their shot to tell them. So, I mean, hats off to Pixar. You know what I mean? Who, you know, supported Domee through her Bao, the short film Bao, and to say, no, you are the next one. We believe in you. And then she was supported by, obviously, all of Pixar, Lindsey Collins, our producer, and Julia Cho, the co-writer. I mean, the diversity of voices can only make us richer as a culture. You know, can only bring us closer as human beings. And I celebrate that. And I think Rosalie and I are both very honored to be a part of that storytelling.
My peers.
Yeah, what do you think your friends are going to think?
I mean, first of all, my peers would definitely watch this movie. And this is my first feature film, so they'll be super excited just for me in general. And you know, they'll tell me they love the movie, and I know they'll love the movie. And the fact that it's dealing with these somewhat taboo subjects, puberty and change and these weird emotions. I mean, all my peers I'm 16 right now, so I'm a high schooler. I think they would have wished that they had this movie when they were 13.
Oh, yeah.
And because I think this movie, it does it in such a fun way, and it's not ashamed of it whatsoever. In fact, it tells you to try to embrace your red panda, and I think that my friends will definitely relate to that.
Maybe
sure.
they'll see themselves already having gone through that.
Exactly.
You know, and then to say, for those who are tweens, they don't know what they're going through. But I was, when we were watching the movie yesterday, there's this moment when in the hallway when Mei, but she poofs her tail, and she's trying to hide her tail under her skirt. For me, in that moment, and I've seen the film 3 times, I was like, menstruation. You know what I mean? Like, as a young girl, as a young woman, dealing with menstruation, it's like you have a giant red fuzzy tail that you are trying to somehow be discreet and hide. And so I just saw that this time around, and I really appreciate it. So if you have already gone through that, you know what it feels like to go, oh my gosh, I've got to, you know what I mean? So that kind of place to be able to, for young people to see themselves like, yeah, that happens.
It's gonna be me.